Hi guys, welcome to another video on apps that will help your productivity. The intention for this series is to help as many people as possible, whether you're an employee that is not used to working remotely, or you are a business owner that wants to be more efficient or more productive, or you're just kind of new to all of this stuff, and that's totally fine too. So we've done a series of apps that will help productivity. And this video, I want to talk about some different finance apps. So their finance kind of can cover a lot of things. The first kind of aspect that I want to talk about is kind of finance management. And I don't mean from if you're a business owner, I don't mean necessarily, or even if it's your personal finances, I don't necessarily mean like adding receipts and the bookkeeping aspect of it, but I mean more of the management of where money's going, sticking to a budget, that kind of thing. So in terms of budgeting, I would say there's two really, really good apps that I'm quite fond of. The first one is called Toshl, Toshl, and that one and one called Mint are both really great kind of finance management, budgeting, tracking finance apps. And there are mobile apps, and then there's also a web-based version for both of those. And basically you can set it up, connect your accounts, and then categorize the transactions. One nice thing about them too is you can, once you categorize a transaction, you can set it up to memorize that company or that type of purchase, and it will automatically categorize it, so it kind of takes some of the manual work out of it. So those are two for a budgeting perspective. You can also set a budget, a monthly budget. You can set a budget for certain categories, that kind of thing. So, and then if you go over or you're getting near it, you can set up notifications where you'll kind of get the heads up like, okay, you've been going out a lot. And sometimes, from an entertainment or more disposable income perspective, you sometimes, especially I think, well, at least around here, as the weather starts to get nicer, not during the pandemic, but as the weather gets nicer, people tend to go and do things, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, you're, spent a bunch of money in your account. So those are two budgeting tools. From a bookkeeping perspective, whether you want to do some detailed bookkeeping for yourself or for your business, there's two that are really good. If you need a very simple system, no payroll, no inventory, physical inventory, anything like that, I would recommend looking at a tool called FreshBooks. FreshBooks is really great because it can categorize expenses, you can send invoices, and on top of that, it's got its own payment processor, so if you need to collect payments, that's really handy. And then there was one other piece of it that I was going to say. You can set up different clients. It has some reporting tools, that kind of thing. If you need something more robust, or you're looking for more of like a detailed accounting record, I would look at something called Xero, Xero, Xero. And both FreshBooks and Xero have apps as well, and have a web-based website where you can log in and access all of your information. I, for many years, used FreshBooks and Xero. Oh, FreshBooks. One of the things that's really great about FreshBooks is it has a fantastic timer. So if you are a freelancer, or if you are somebody that wants to track where you're spending your time, you can create projects, and then the timer will log time to specific projects, or you can even break it down by tasks. So it depends on how detailed. So there's that aspect. Xero does not have a timer. So that works a little bit differently. It has some really great integrations where it might connect to a project management space, and it can pull in the time into an invoice, but native to Xero, it does not have a timer. but it is more of a true accounting software. So there's a chart of accounts, there's a balance sheet, there's profit and loss, there's clients, there's customers. You can have expense reports, you can submit receipts. I store all of them. You can submit receipts in FreshBooks too, but again, it's a little bit more limited. If you are a bigger company or you have employees, there is a awesome payroll feature in there. There is a fantastic inventory tracking feature in there. So it's more robust, similar to QuickBooks, but in my opinion, much more user-friendly and just a much better platform overall. They've kind of come out of the woodwork over the last several years. They've become more and more popular. People are becoming Xero certified. A lot of accountants, especially because they were kind of ahead of the curve, in my opinion, on the cloud-based accounting side of things compared to QuickBooks. And QuickBooks for a long time was, kind of considered the standard. If you were going to do bookkeeping, like QuickBooks was the way to go. Nothing against QuickBooks. QuickBooks is great. It's still there. Definitely not my preference and definitely not the one I'd recommend. Xero has a great customer support team. They're very quick to respond. They have great tutorials. QuickBooks, I will tell you, it's owned by Intuit. Kind of a sidebar here, but I needed to. This was a few years back, but I had a customer or a client ask me to help them with an issue they were having with QuickBooks. And let me tell you, it was the most miserable customer service experience that I've had with any company ever in my entire life. And I mean, I'm sure you can think of some utilities, federal government, taxes. I mean, there's plenty of bad customer service out there. But this took the cake. I spent probably close to 5 hours on hold, getting transferred, talking to different people. 5 hours of time, I'd say at least, and I might be pretty conservative on that. But it took up most of my day, and I still didn't get the answer I was looking for. Nobody could explain it to me, and it was just absolutely horrible. So, again, these types of things obviously influence opinions and experiences and recommendations. So that's just one example of why I'm not a QuickBooks fan, but one customer service support issue is not a reason to not use a tool. I just think that Xero does a better job. And then the third piece of the finance apps that I want to talk about is more on the banking and transactional side of things. And I wasn't, this actual video, I wasn't even planning to do, but it came up in one of my monthly group coaching calls with some of my students, and people were asking questions about it. And I decided in talking with them and some of the questions they had that I thought it would be a helpful topic to kind of integrate into this series. And it came up mostly because of this transactional aspect of finance. Now, if you're saying, well, I'm not a business owner, I'm an employee, or this doesn't really apply to me because I don't have to worry about the employee side of things. I'm just Jane Doe here at home. Totally understand. However, I will say that I think there's some things that you might want to consider. So first of all, there's a lot of payment processors out there. Some are very popular and some are not as popular. And the not as popular ones, there are obviously pros and cons to all of them, but I found that some of these not as popular ones, or these up and coming ones, are, for me, been some of the best. For many years, I have a checking account, the business does, and I do for personal, through Chase Bank in the United States here. But primarily, most of my business transactions would go through PayPal. There was a few different reasons for that, but PayPal was really, I started my business over 9 years ago. And at that time, they were one of the only integrated online payment processors, unless you wanted to set up a gateway. And I don't want to get into too many technical terms here, but if you are a small business owner or you're somebody that's trying to collect payments and there's not either a lot of volume or the transaction amount isn't super high, that's not a really a affordable or feasible thing. You want something more that's one-off or like per transaction type thing. So that's where I went with PayPal. And as I got further and further along in the business, more of my transactions went through PayPal. More tools would basically force you to pay through PayPal. And so it just was really nice. And PayPal integrated with Xero. It integrated with FreshBooks, where I was sending invoices from up until a year plus ago. I just kind of outgrew it a little bit. The business did. But it integrated in so many things. And so it was very, very easy. I could create buttons for products so that people could buy or purchase one-off services or one-off digital products or coaching calls or that kind of thing. So I really got pretty deep into PayPal. And as time went on, I feel like PayPal might have dropped the ball a little bit. Some competition rolled in like Stripe and Square, and they really started to cater to some of the freelancers, the arts and crafts community, people on Etsy, small businesses that would rather have a kind of more budget friendly payment processor. And or you could do it per transaction. PayPal does allow you to set up a gateway or have a business premiere or business plan through PayPal, but again, unless you do the volume, I've found a monthly fee plus a percentage is not really worth it if you are a freelancer that is sending 5 invoices a month or whatever. Maybe anything less really than probably 20. And again, it depends on the amount of the transaction. Anyway, but PayPal kind of, in my opinion, has gotten too big for the britches. And after hearing a horrible experience with a friend, or actually with 2 colleagues of mine, and most recently something that's happened to me personally, I have really, really not been a fan of PayPal. There's a couple different reasons. If you are selling intangible products or services and there is any kind of dispute, you pretty much will automatically lose because they do not offer seller protection on anything intangible. So basically what that means is, as a business owner, if you are getting paid for coaching, consulting, a digital product, anything of that nature that is intangible, and somebody says, you didn't own up to your promises, you didn't give me the ebook that I purchased, you didn't give me this training course, it does not matter how many emails, how much proof. I had a colleague had video recordings of a customer acknowledging that there would be no refund period if they went ahead and did this. There was no refund. It was signed in writing. It was on the recording. They lost. And they lost a lot of money and a lot of time. And this has happened in my community over and over again. So there's that aspect. And then on the personal side, I know a lot of people that will transfer money back and forth, maybe personally. So whether you're out to dinner or you're, in a fantasy baseball league and somebody says, well, PayPal me the dues. There is oftentimes the person that you're transferring to, even if it's PayPal to PayPal, you end up paying a fee or both. So PayPal takes some of your money, and don't get me wrong, I totally understand these payment processors need to make money, but it wasn't always that way. And to me, I feel like it's no different than if I transfer money from a Chase checking account to somebody else that has a Chase checking account. There's no fee. It's staying within the bank. It's just a computer transaction going over. When you start going between processors, I can understand where there would be fees coming into that, but I'm saying this is definitely a con that has started to, or pro versus con. This is a con that's started to infiltrate some of the things with PayPal. So as of recently, and I say recently, like as in the last month and a half, I have pulled nearly all of my invoices and expenses off of PayPal. I want to minimize whatever I can on there because you have basically no protection. And you're leaving things up to chance. And I never had this issue before. I don't have a lot of issues with clients or students, but I don't really feel like taking that chance when there's other processors that have much better protection. So, and PayPal, unless you pay for a premium account with them, they do not take recurring transactions. Or unless you set up a button, but I don't want to get too technical here. It's just a little bit more difficult. Stripe will store payment information for you securely. So Stripe is a nice alternative. And then also Square, they'll email receipts, they text receipts, and they do have some good integrations as well. So from a transactional perspective, those three are kind of very similar, but you have a little bit more protection with Stripe and Square. Now, on a kind of an offshoot here, if you are collecting payments or you are looking to have a almost like a bank account, right? So PayPal isn't a bank account. It's a way to access money and pay and receive money, receive and pay for goods with money. But if somebody says, can I have your routing number and checking account number, PayPal doesn't have that. And you might say, well, that doesn't seem like a big deal. Well, yes and no. There are certain things where you have to have, you cannot use a card number, and you need to have something that's more true to a checking account. So I have found that there are two fantastic options. If you deal with international payments, whether it be receiving payments or paying maybe a contractor internationally, there is a tool called TransferWise, TransferWise. And TransferWise, I'll put some links, by the way, in the comments, but TransferWise will set you up with an ACH number and a checking account number if you want to set up an account with US dollars. You can set up pretty much as many accounts as you want in different currencies. So I could open 10 accounts in 10 different currencies. You might say, well, why would I want to do that? Well, if I'm paying a team member in British pounds, I might want to have a British pounds account set up so there's not fees associated with the currency exchange. But you can still, it's one of the most affordable ways to transfer money internationally and avoid some of those really super expensive wire transfer fees. The only catch is that the other person needs to, if you're sending them money, to make it the most affordable, they need to sign up for an account. It is free to sign up for. In some countries, you will receive a debit card, which is one of the things I really liked about PayPal, is you would get a debit card. So if you were out and about and I had a client pay me an invoice, it would come in the account, and it would work very similar to my Chase checking account. I have a debit card for it, and I have a ACH or a routing number. I don't want to say ACH. Anyway, I have a routing number and a checking account number associated with that TransferWise account. And then depending on the currency, you again will have a certain bank, a certain, your account will be, depending on the currency, associated with a certain bank in that country or region. You'll have an actual true account number, which is awesome because sometimes some of these other tools that are banks will act more as a prepaid card. And some companies, when you go, especially if you're using like a reoccurring tool, they will essentially decline that form of payment because it's considered prepaid. You can avoid, if you're ever worried about it and you use multiple accounts and are moving money around, you can avoid overdraft fees. So if there's not money there, then the transaction's declined. There's no overdraft fees or anything like that. And yeah, it's just a really great system. The only thing that I don't like about TransferWise is if I want to pull money out of my TransferWise account and I want to put it into, let's say, my Chase checking account, I have to pay a fee, and there's usually a 3 to 5 business day delay. It's not very quick, which kind of sucks. So, same thing, there's fees with ATM and, taking money out of an ATM and that kind of thing. But, so that part kind of sucks. So then I discovered another tool called Revolut, Revolut, Revolut. That one recently had a debit card that became available in the US, and it works very similar to TransferWise. You can set up different currencies. You have different account numbers. You have, if you're in a country that offers a physical card, you can get a physical debit card. You can freeze your card. You can set up a virtual card. You can set up an expiring card for like a one-time use thing if you're worried about security. And then all the transactions actually can be similar to some of the accounting stuff like Xero and FreshBooks, and even Tashel and Mint, where you can categorize the transactions. You can create categories for each of the transactions and save it for all future transactions. So you actually get almost like that breakdown and that budgeting that you would get with Tashel or Mint, and that would be in there. And then they also have something called a vault, where you can round up transactions, where if there's change, you can round it up. If it's like $24.95, the 5 cents can roll. It'll round up and take that 5 cents and put it into like kind of like a mini savings account. You can set a goal and a timeline, like I want to save X number of dollars by X date. So it kind of gives you behind the scenes without you really knowing it, if you want kind of that extra kind of savings account where you're saving the spare change and kind of rounding things off. So that's kind of cool. I've really become fond of it. And instead of withdrawing money from your TransferWise account, because I do have TransferWise and I do have Revolut, instead of withdrawing money from TransferWise and paying a fee, you can actually add money if you open the Revolut app, you can add money to your Revolut balance. It's instant, so you get access instantly from any money that you have in your TransferWise account. It's instant, so you can instantly transfer money between the accounts. And then to take money from your Revolut account and put it into your checking account, it is free. It does take, I want to say, 2 or 3 business days, which I think is pretty standard. You can pay more to have it be instant, like you can pay a fee, so it depends on how fast you need it, but I find that accessing the money is a lot quicker, and again, I like to make things as cheap as possible, whenever possible, without compromising quality. So those are some of the apps that I thought I'd share with you today as part of this finance series of productivity apps. If there's any other apps that you find helpful with budgeting, finance, bookkeeping, payments, any of that kind of stuff, or want to share your experience or say, man, I know you mentioned this, but it totally stinks, leave a comment, let me know. This is supposed to be helpful for everybody. So I know there's a lot of good things out there, and just sharing with you what my experience is and what I know. So I hope you guys found this helpful, and I hope you have a great day. Bye now.